Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and thank you everyone who's tuning in live this morning or afternoon or evening, even midnight in India, to the stream. If you are tuning in live, let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from, who you are, and maybe if you've never used XD before, throw that in there as well. And a big good morning, afternoon, or evening too. We got Sam, one of our awesome moderators, Tim, another awesome moderator, Cars, one of our great community members, Cyril, if I mispronounce anyone's name, I apologize, Agnes, and Anna, and Jude, and Pooja, and Elijah, and Tosha, and Joss, Sarah, Cindy, a lot of people in here today. Awesome. Megan, welcome. Adriano, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. London, Ontario, awesome, I was born in Toronto, so we're basically neighbors. We have someone who's never used XD before. I think these challenges are definitely going to help you out. If you've never used XD before, definitely check out the previous challenges, especially on day number 1, day number 2. We really take things a little bit slower at the beginning, then we progress into some crazy stuff like you may have seen yesterday with some auto animate and masking. Really fun stuff. Hey, Rachel, Antonio, and everyone else joining me. Cindy is brand new to XD, awesome. And if anyone is brand new to XD, let me hop over just for a second to my screen. Here we go, here's my screen. If you go to letsxd.com, shameless plug because I put together this website, all the videos, but I have a ton of videos on here on very basic stuff from designing, prototyping, and sharing to some more advanced features like importing sketch files, using Creative Cloud libraries, components, that sort of thing. And speaking of components, at 3:30 Pacific time today on the XD Facebook page, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into components. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely stay tuned and head over there. All right, so the Daily Creative Challenge. Let's go over some information on what this is. Head over to behance.net/challenge/XD. And this is where you're going to find all the information on not only this challenge, but if I zoom down here, you're also going to see some past challenges. And we haven't done this before. This is fairly new. So if you're brand new to XD and you want to kind of catch up on some of the previous challenges hosted by Melody and Andrea, definitely go here, check some of these out. Great stuff as well. So if you haven't pressed the big blue register button at the top, press that button. That way you're notified when we release new challenges every single morning at 8 o'clock Pacific time. And then you're going to join us, or you don't have to, but you can join us in our community chat, which is powered by Discord. And here's Discord here. Here's our design feedback section. We have over 11,000 designers in Discord. That's crazy. And Joss is asking about the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Adobe XD. Super simple. I'll be there at 3:30 Pacific time. So in just about, 4 hours, something like that, doing a deep dive into components. So Discord, there's 11,000 of you. You can submit or show the work that you're doing. Megan just uploaded this one. Definitely go check that out. We've got Gummy Panda. We've got a lot of awesome people in here uploading their designs. We have a chat section. We have an ask a question section. We have tips and tricks. A lot of cool stuff in Discord. Definitely hop in there. A new update came out for XD today. Nothing major, but some nice quality of life improvements. And of course, leading up to Adobe Max, we're going to have even more updates coming, in the coming months. And definitely at Max, we have some amazing stuff planned. I can't wait to show off some of that stuff. So you're also going to join me at 11:30 Pacific time to kind of kick off and get some inspiration, and then you're going to share your work. Again, you can share it on Discord using that keyword X, or just in that channel, but you can also share it on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge, and I can just scroll through here and see all of your amazing challenge entries that you've been putting together. So as for today, we are going to be tackling the mobile home screen. And yesterday we kind of dove into some mobile design. We started last week with primarily desktop, and now we're kind of making that transition into a mobile world because it's so important these days to really focus and at least have some sort of a mobile presence, especially when you're having a service like maybe a travel booking website, right? Yeah, and everyone's asking about Adobe Max. It's coming up in November. That's our yearly massive conference where we release pretty much updates on everything that we do. And XD is definitely going to be part of that. And I've seen what we're going to be releasing. They're working super hard behind the scenes. We've got some good stuff coming up. A lot of things that people have been asking for quite a while. And we're not just saving everything for Max. We're going to have some more things coming out in the coming months coming up to Max. But yeah, it's going to be good. If anyone's there, I'm going to be hosting 3 labs. I'll have more information about that in the coming months. So let me hop over just for a second to Finder. I did pull two designs from yesterday that I want to show off. This one is from Chandra Vadan. If I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize. And this was to create the splash screen for the mobile app. And this is really nice. The animations are very nice and smooth. Looks really cool. Awesome. And this one is from Perla, who put together this, and I thought this was a really interesting idea, and I pulled this for a reason, because I noticed that, let me zoom in here, I noticed that the plane's a little bit choppy, and what I'm assuming she did is that she used separate artboards for each basically rotation, right, to make that plane go around, because at the moment, you can't animate objects on a path. However, I did pull this, because I want to show you how this could be done very quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time. Let me play this one more time. Boop. I want to show you a very quick trick that you can do for something like this to maybe possibly improve your workflow, Perla. So let me hop over to Adobe XD, and very quickly, here is the template for today. And again, we're kind of tackling the mobile home screen. We did the splash screen and login experience yesterday, and then we're basically going to take this, or a lot of this information, and put it onto a mobile screen. But before I do that, I do want to show that little quick tip. So over here, here's the splash screen from yesterday. This is the one I did on stream, and I modified it just a little bit. Let me show you how I modified it. It's basically the same thing, just I tweaked some colors, and I also added a little bit of a logo at the top, which kind of animates. Let me show you that one more time. There we go. So what I want to show from the example from Perla, what she probably did was she kind of made this move down to here on the second artboard, and then she rotated it on the third artboard just a little bit, and then she made another artboard and she rotated it. But what you can actually do is use a circle as your guide. So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool and simply draw out an ellipse just like this, holding down Shift to make it a perfect circle, position it behind the rocket, and I'm going to turn off the fill and the border. That looks pretty good. Let me just move it in just a little bit. So I'm going to turn off the fill in the border just so it's an invisible circle. We really don't have to see it. And then in the layers panel, I'm going to select both of those. Command and Control G to group them. Doesn't matter what the group name is. I'm just going to name it Rocket. And now what we're able to do, what that will allow us to do, let me zoom out of here, is let's say the rocket is down here because you moved from here to here on the first artboard, and now you want to rotate it around that planet. On the second artboard, with the entire group selected, you can now rotate it like this, right? And that's kind of what Perla had in that example. And now when you link up these two artboards, let me do a very quick, let's say, time transition. We'll give it a slight delay so it doesn't kick off immediately. And we'll do none. And we'll do like, let's say we'll do a 4-second duration. And then when we play it, we now have a nice rotation basically around an invisible circle, and in Perla's case, it would be a planet. So just something, a small tip that might help some of you. Again, you can't rotate, or you can't animate on paths just yet. It's something on the team's radar. I'm not sure when they're going to get to it, but in the meantime, you can use invisible circles. Alrighty, so here we go. Let me delete this stuff. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating the mobile home screen using a lot of the information that we have on our desktop view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another artboard. Where's my artboard tool? In design mode, grab my artboard tool. Howard is an XD hacker. Yes, I am. And I'm just going to create another artboard just like this. Again, an iPhone 10 or 10s. You have to keep in mind that they do have the notch and they do have the home indicator at the bottom. So keep that in mind when you're designing. We're going to start off simple. We're going to start off with a little bit of a navigation bar at the bottom. So I'm just going to simply draw out a rectangle just like this. Again, making a little bit extra room at the bottom for that home indicator. And of course, if you're designing for the iPhone 8 or the iPhone or an Android device that doesn't have that home indicator, you don't have to worry too much about that. I'm going to make it nice and dark for now, turn off the border, and I need some icons. So I'm going to hop over to Nucleo, which is a third-party application. It's basically an icon manager. And I'm going to type in, let's say, planet. I'm just going to grab this icon, bring it into XD. This will be here. I do want to set up some guides. So I'm going to turn on my guides and just drag out a guide, let's say 32 pixels from this side, and drag one out 32 pixels from this side. That looks pretty good right there. And did you know we had guides? We introduced that back in May. I'm going to position my planet right about there. You know what? The navigation bar is a little bit too large, even with that home indicator at the bottom. Drop that down. Oops. And maybe this one will be the active icon. So this will be maybe a nice blue color, somewhere right around there. And thank you, Tim, for posting that link. I'm gonna increase this to, let's say, 45 pixels. Oh, that wasn't fun. The planet just exploded. And that's because responsive resize is on. If you're dealing with a path-based icon, you wanna turn responsive resize off. Boop, there we go. Otherwise, it's going to skew those paths a little bit. So let me just jump this to 45. That's probably a little bit too large. Let me drop it down to 32. That's a little bit better. All right, pop that one right about there. And now we need one for destination. So maybe a rocket, possibly. Let's see, we've got a rocket there. That looks pretty good. Let's go this one. Turn off responsive resize. Bump this up to 32. I'm gonna zip through this navigation because this is just definitely a secondary item of the larger picture that we're gonna be doing. There we go, and then maybe we want an alien. We're gonna get really fun with this. Alien over here. Turn off responsive resize, 32, very good. And now we want one more, maybe like a spaceman for a profile. Space. And we've got this little guy over here. Perfect, all right. And this will be 32. I'll make sure this one lines up on this side. Perfect. Make sure our alien lines up. And then I'm gonna select all of these guys and then make sure that they are all nicely distributed horizontally with this button right here. Boop. Perfect. And now this one, whoops. This one, and this one. I'm gonna set to white, but just drop the opacity just a little bit. All right, so nothing super special. Those icons are probably a little bit too large, but we're gonna run with it. So what we're going to do, Richard is saying, is 32 the right size for navigation icons? 32 and 45, I think 40 is, either 40 or 45 is like the default, but you look at any application, there's some of the little bit small. So 32 would probably work. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab some of the information on, I'm gonna move this artboard down here so I can kind of work off of some of the information that we're working with. So I'm gonna grab my rectangle tool, just draw out a rectangle across the top. I'm gonna start right about here. And I might want, you know what I can do? I can just copy this and paste it. Just to make my life a little bit easier. Just like this. I can double click to go in here, move that planet around, move this up a touch. And what I might want up here is a little bit of a preview on booking a vacation, right? So I'm gonna grab my text tool and just type out explore the universe. Position that on my guides. Everything lines up really nicely. And then right about here, I want basically just the search field, and we're gonna expand on that a little bit later if we have time. So I'm gonna grab my rectangle tool, just draw out a search field just like this. And of course I could use some of the components and I could bring those over, but because we're designing pretty much completely a little bit different, or a little bit differently, I'm gonna just do that. But I can just dive in here, grab this, paste it in here, make it a touch smaller. And now we have our first search field, just like that. And turn off the border, boop, there we go. And make sure all of this is grouped. All right, so this will be destination. Perfect. All right, now I might want a few additional search fields. These will be hidden, but for now we're actually going to duplicate this. We're gonna hide them in a minute. Delete that, whoops, delete that. Make this a bit smaller, about halfway and a little bit smaller, and we'll have one over here. And this will be for our leaving date and arrival date. So I'm gonna copy those, paste them in here. Again, make them a touch smaller. And of course, if I was designing this for production, I'd probably make sure that everything is really lined up. But, you know, we're short on time. So I'm gonna move this over. That looks good right about there. Move this one over as well. Beautiful. And then I wanna make sure, I'm gonna ungroup this for a second and make sure that return and this is grouped. What do I have? I have this this is all grouped. Ungroup, there we go. So we've got this and this, I'm gonna group that, and this, I'm gonna group that, boom, perfect. We have a group. Make this a little bit larger for now. Oh, you know what I did? Ooh, there we go, perfect. All right, now I want one more right below, so I'm gonna duplicate this one more time, and this is gonna be for the number of people. So I'm gonna just grab this, paste it, And I love when, you're working on a mobile design from desktop or desktop to mobile. All your assets are there. They might be in your assets panel as components. You can just grab them, bring them in. Don't be afraid to reuse elements. And then on this side, I might want a little bit of an ellipse. This will be to add additional people. Maybe I'll turn off the fill and just set a nice light border like that. Very good. Position it in the center. And we'll have two. We'll have one on this side and one over here. And then in the middle, we might want a plus button. Make that nice and dark-ish, or maybe a little, somewhere around there. And I'll make that nice and light. There we go, there's a plus button. Move that right about there. And then we'll have a minus button on this side. Perfect. Fancy. All right, so now that we've got sort of our search area set up, we might not want this to all be displayed on the home page at the same time, right? Or at least right at the beginning. What I'm going to make sure to do, I want to make sure to group all of this stuff first. So this is going to be grouped. This will be people, oops. People, I can't spell today or any other day, leaving and arriving. I guess that would be backwards, right? Arriving and leaving. There we go. Oh no, what happened? I just deleted something. Where did it go? Whoops, I don't know what I just did, but I deleted something. All right, we're good, whatever. This will be called people. All right, and now the final thing we need some sort of a button at the bottom. So I'm gonna grab my rectangle tool, draw out a button just like this. I'm gonna set the fill to a nice, slightly desaturated blue, turn off the border, and then I might want, let's blast off. And let's make this nice and bold and white. A little too large, make it a little bit smaller. And now we have our button. Perfect, looks good. All right, so now again, what I mentioned is we may not want all of this information on our mobile home screen right at the beginning, right? So what we're gonna do is we're going to actually make two different artboards. Let me go ahead and move this so I can have a little bit of room. Move this up here, go away. There we go. And in this case, we wanna mask some of this stuff out. So all of this information here, right? Arriving, let me just make sure everything is grouped, leaving, perfect. So we've got all of our information here. What we're gonna do is grab the rectangle tool and simply draw out a box around all this information, just like this. And we're gonna use this to mask out some of this stuff. So I'm gonna select all these groups underneath it, and under the object menu, I'm gonna press mask with shade. It's basically gonna take all that information underneath that rectangle, and it's gonna mask all of it inside of that rectangle. Now, of course, in this case, we definitely want it all to be shown, but in the original state, we don't. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate this over to the right. This will be the second state, and this will be the first state. And all I have to do is jump into that mask, grab the rectangle, and just move it up, and just create state number one. So I'm gonna do that, so all of it's hidden except just the search field. And I'm gonna maybe make this a little bit smaller, like that. There we go. So now that we have a lot more room on our mobile homepage that we can use for things like repeat grids, other destinations, because some people may not want to search immediately. So you don't want to take up the entire screen just for a search experience. So what I can do now is grab this, let's say, repeat grid from my desktop screen, pop it on here, and make some changes. So maybe what I'm going to do is, let me get rid of the book. Well, yeah, I'll keep it there for now. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Drag this inwards, and you're noticing because it's a repeat grid, everything is changing all at once. I can get rid of this, make this all nice and dark. Perfect. Move this around. The book now button, I'll leave that there for now. Maybe I'll make this a little bit rounded, just like that. We're gonna have some fun with this. A little bit smaller. This is probably a little bit too big. Let me go down to, let's say, 26. And this I can go down to 16, right? Pop that about there. The book now button I'll deal with in just a second. Let me turn off the background blur because I definitely don't need that. That's an ugly color, but we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that in just a second. And right behind it maybe, I might want a little bit of a rectangle. Like that, going across. Maybe I'll round out the corners a touch. Just a little bit, not too much. And let's add a little bit of a shadow. Just to really pop this out, really increase the size of that shadow a bit. There we go. Perfect, and then drop the opacity a touch. And I want to make sure that this is behind all the other layers, so I'm just using the shortcut key on my keyboard, just like that. And maybe I want, you know what, I'm going to make sure the background is slightly off-white, just so we can see that little shape in the background. And now I can start moving things around. And again, because we're working with a repeat grid, everything stays in sync, which is really nice. Now the Book Now button, what I'm gonna do is just grab this color from here and change the color to white on the text and just move this somewhere right about there. Perfect. Right about there. There we go. And that heart icon, I want to move that as well. Now you're probably noticing that because this is a component, it's not updating on all the other ones. So in this case, I want to actually right click on it and ungroup the component. That way it ungroups everywhere. I'm going to set this color to a gray and maybe turn off the border. Perfect. All right, so now that we've got that done, everything's looking good. We're going to ungroup the component here. Perfect. And now we can go ahead and make some changes to our repeat grid. So I'm going to bring this inwards, make this a little bit squishier. So now that we have a few, then I can just jump into the masks and move things around as I please. All right, now I probably make a few changes here to make this a little bit smaller so it's not too thick. Grab the button, move that up. Perfect. All right, so now that we've got some additional destinations on our artboard, I want to make sure this is behind everything else. Perfect. Things are looking good. Now I'm going to just copy this and paste it on this artboard and just move it into place. Alrighty, about 26, 24 pixels from the top. Make sure this is 29, a few more, boop, there we go. Sound is gone, uh-oh. Hopefully my sound is still there. Let me know, you probably can't hear me if the sound isn't there, but let me know if you can hear me. But anyways, so we're at the point where we need to wire this thing up. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hop into prototype mode. I'm gonna select the search field in this case and drag it over to the second artboard. And I want a tap trigger, so let me zoom in here. I'm gonna have a tap trigger right about here. And then I want to choose auto animate. So XD looks at the differences between the two artboards and it animates those changes. I'm gonna do, let's say easing, we'll do in and out, and we'll do a fairly quick duration, let's say 0.6 seconds. All right, with that done, let's go ahead and press play at the top. And now we've got our mobile home screen. We've got a little bit of an area at the top. Of course, we'd probably add a search field at the top. We'd add a menu to get to some of the other things, the navigation links and that sort of thing. But for now, we can just press on this. That mask expands, so you can go ahead and search. And if you wanted to, you can always have some sort of a system to hide it as well, whether it's an X button or whatever it might be to go back to the previous state. You might also want to enable scrolling. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to hop into prototype mode. I'm gonna pull down this design mode. I'm gonna pull down the artboard just like this. So I make room for some of these other planets, right? I'm gonna have a little bit extra room at the bottom for the navigation bar. Perfect, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing for this artboard. Just pull this down and then pull this down as well. Perfect, all right. Now this one actually has to go a little bit longer because we move things around. There we go, perfect. Now what you're gonna notice is if I go to the play button at the top and I scroll down, that navigation bar also scrolls down, which we don't want. We actually want it to fix into place. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the navigation bar here. Now what I didn't do originally, I didn't set everything into a group. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that very quickly now. Select all this, group it, call this navigation. Nav, I can probably also turn it into a component, but for now, I'll just keep it grouped, copy it. I'll just paste it on this artboard. Let me delete all this, paste. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select both these navigation bars across these artboards, go into prototype mode, and make sure that fixed position with scrolling is turned on. So now that way, when I do scroll, that navigation bar stays nicely fixed. And I can click, expands, scroll down. I probably have to make it a little bit longer, but you get the idea. So there we go. Oh yeah, Rockwood is saying that artboards are different colors, so I can very easily jump in here. Boop, there we go. And now we have good looking prototype. Of course, there's a lot more that I'm going to probably tweak on this after this stream, but for now, we'll leave it at that. So thanks again for everyone for tuning in. Definitely submit your stuff on Discord, throw it on Behance, XD Daily Creative Challenge. Stay tuned in just a few minutes. We got another XD stream coming right up, and I will see you all tomorrow morning. See ya.